Due to the content of No More Heroes, the mature nature of the game, and the extent of violence and assassination there within, viewer discretion is advised. Many games over the years have slipped past me for a variety of reasons. Sometimes I don't have the console they release on, or sometimes money is too tight when they come out, and before I know it, they've drifted by. When No More Heroes came out on the Wii, I didn't have the system anymore due to a sheer disdain for motion controls. They just seemed shoehorned into every single game that came out, whether it was good or bad. But after starting to watch many Let's Plays, I always stopped an episode or two in because I told myself I'm gonna play this game one day, and I don't want the experience spoiled. In 2011, the game came to PS3 in America, but due to lackluster reviews and many considering it a pretty shoddy port, I passed on it once again. But in 2020, a ray of light came down from the gods in the form of No More Heroes 1 and 2 coming to the Switch. And the port was apparently very good outside of some missing music. Finally, I was going to be able to play it. And after finally giving this game my full, undivided attention for a few weeks, I decided I have to talk about it. Initially, No More Heroes was going to be a game I played for me, something I played in my free time that wouldn't get a video of its own. I finished it and thought, yeah, I just had the time of my life while doing the salsa while suplexing enemies, so I started over right then and there. That never happens for me. That's how much I loved playing this game. But what is it even about? Everything you need to know about No More Heroes is in the title. There are no heroes in this tale of violence and assassination. Not even our protagonist Travis Touchdown is heroic. I spent a lot of time with Travis over the last few weeks, and while I had an outstanding time with him, I don't envy him. He's a flawed human being, but can you really blame him? Travis has no family, and his only friend is someone we know as the guy that worked at the video store near his apartment at the No More Heroes Hotel. He is a desperately lonely guy whose only consistent companionship comes from the figurines on his shelves and his death-defying cat, Jeannie. One night, while Travis is blacked out drunk at a bar and venting his problems to no one and everyone simultaneously, Sylvia Crystal approaches him to tell him that she can help him solve all of his problems. Before she agrees to help, though, she needs a favor from Travis. Sylvia offers Travis the job of killing Helter Skelter, an assassin known as the Drifter, and fortunately for Travis, he's fresh off emptying his bank account for the winning bid of a lightsaber-esque weapon known as a beam katana. After killing the Drifter, Sylvia informs Travis that he is now the number 11 ranked assassin on the United Assassins Association's list of killers in the United States. The only problem for Travis is, now that he's ranked on the list, every assassin ranked 12 and below will be after him to claim his spot to move up the chart.
So what you're telling me is that I gotta continue fighting. There's no way out of this.
Travis remains determined, though, in spite of feeling duped, to claim the number 1 spot by fighting through the ranks. That's pretty much all there is to the story, but what really fascinates me about the narrative itself is the variety of characters Travis faces along the way. Almost every assassin is a cautionary tale of who Travis will become if he keeps thirsting for battle. I'm not going to spoil every single boss battle because frankly the surprise of who you fight next was half the fun for me, but there were a few characters I wanted to touch on that come earlier on in the story. The first assassin the player actually gets to face is called Death Metal. Travis and Number 10 exchange words on what paradise is, and to Travis, the seaside mansion overlooking the water is the ultimate paradise.
This is paradise, the place where dreams are fulfilled. Well, you've had your dream, old man. Time to wake up.
This is no paradise.
But the grizzled assassin facing him views this mansion as just another place to die, with paradise being the release of finally being able to rest. Number 9 on the list, Dr. Peace, is the embodiment of the family Travis will never have if he never gives up his lust for blood. This path our protagonist is on will never enable him to settle down if he just doesn't give it up. Dr. Peace has lost all vision for everything other than violence, and before his final battle with Travis, he expresses his dependency on killing. Despite being treated to a world-class meal by the UAA before their match, Peace's daughter, who he hadn't seen in 10 years, refused to look him in the eye, and his desperation for more bloodshed spoiled his meal.
Oh, the food tasted like blood.
I thought the story was serviceable, and the assassins you meet on the trail to number 1 were all well thought out and well designed, and the way these characters were crafted also lends themselves to being excellent boss fights. But before we get to that in depth, I want to talk about the gameplay side of No More Heroes. When I consider my time with the game, it starts to separate itself into three main parts: open world navigation and part-time jobs, horde mode style assassination missions / lead-ups to boss fights, and lastly the boss fights themselves. The open world of Santa Destroy and No More Heroes is a pretty polarizing aspect of the game, and you either like it or you hate it. The city is a pretty uninspired world to explore, with the main gameplay boiling down to driving around on Travis's bike, kicking dumpsters to get trash clothes, or digging for treasure with a beam katana. There is a small collectible mechanic too, where you travel and collect hidden lava cov balls, which you can trade 7 of for new abilities. On my first playthrough, I collected all but one of the extra abilities, and I didn't find it that hard to do. I mainly just drove around after getting the beam katana upgrade that reveals treasure on the map, and took care of that while listening to a podcast or two. Santa Destroy is a cold place with little upward mobility and almost nothing to do, and while it does have somewhat of a veneer that says it is a cool place to live, I can't imagine anyone making an excited choice to make this industrial landscape their home. And while the tone of Santa Destroy's mediocrity feels deliberate, it doesn't change that as an open world in a video game, it's still flat and dull a lot of the time. I was warned by my friend before I started that there was literally nothing to do in the open world, so imagine my surprise when I could look for collectibles and optional money. Honestly, I kind of feel like that my expectations were so low, I don't think I was nearly as disappointed as many other players were. Since there were shops and secrets to find, as limited as they were, there was much more than the literal nothing I was warned about. But that is where my praises of Santa Destroy end. There is no NPC interaction, no random events to witness, no fast travel. And because there are so few places to go on the map, you're kind of going to be traveling the same few streets repeatedly, dozens of times throughout your playthrough. It's like an urban Walden. There is one video store, one job center, one vehicle to drive, and so on. There are a few optional side missions that ask you to kill a wave of enemies without taking a single hit, but that's pretty much it. Santa Destroy really only acts as a vessel from getting from one place to another between the shops and waypoints. Even with the collectibles, there is little in between to keep you busy, and without a fast travel system, the repeated trips from the same point A to the same point B feels like more padding than any other part of the game. Had Santa Destroy been developed as a more lively place where the people weren't unintentionally walking around like zombies, I think it would have been much better received. I don't think the map itself is fundamentally awful, it's just very empty. The few locations on the map let you buy more clothes, upgrade your beam katana, train at Thunder Ryu's gym, and rent VHS tapes of old wrestling videos, which teach Travis new wrestling moves that he can use in combat. As you can probably imagine, all of these upgrades and cosmetics require money, which leads to Travis picking up part-time jobs for extra coin. As the game progresses, Travis gets the option to participate in various diversions to gain money. From the first mission of collecting coconuts, apparently a Santa Destroy delicacy which are worth more than human life, to saving herds of missing cats roaming a neighborhood, there are a wide variety of odd jobs Travis can do. I didn't really love or hate any of these missions, but I can see why people would hate this side of No More Heroes. Some of these jobs really do feel like work, but in spite of that, I found a weird sense of challenge in trying to maximize my profits while cutting grass. After meddling in these challenges, some more shadier work is opened up and unlocked, which brings us to the next kind of gameplay, the assassination missions and corridor fights that lead to the boss fights. I lump these two together because of how similar they are in ways that will be very clear soon. When compared to the part-time jobs, the assassination missions you take on are always more fun. That's because most of the entire focus is on the gameplay and excellent rewarding combat. In Santa Destroy, you'll be driving around and assassinating specific people for cash. 9 out of 10 times this means killing a generic person before time runs out, or killing a wave of enemies as fast as you can. If you want to stack up a ton of cash fast, this is where most of your effort should go, because you get paid way more for these missions than the part-time jobs. My only real complaint is that they are too similar to one another, and the target missions have you trying to kill someone who looks identical to all the other enemies in the mission. One of these jobs can be exploited for money far more than any of the others, which meant I was spending a lot of time killing a horde of people in this alleyway. But by no means is any of this a deal breaker, because these are just diversions to get to the meat and potatoes of the game and earn your cash to pay your entry fee for the next league match. These missions are all done really quickly too, and they'll be over before you know it, which is why these feel so much less like padding than the actual driving to the locations where the missions start. The part-time jobs and assassination missions feel like a necessary evil to build out Travis's character and really drive the point home how desperate he actually is to make money. not to mention how little he actually has. Travis wants to be a top assassin, but first he has to do his chores. These horde missions I mentioned before resemble the lead-ups to boss fights, but instead of fighting in an enclosed space, you have to kill waves of enemies as you progress through a concourse of a baseball stadium or the hallways of a school. If you can't tell, fighting waves of enemies is a lot of what No More Heroes has to offer, and not once did I ever get tired of it. I was a bit nervous to play No More Heroes with motion controls because of how much I despise them, but after playing this game twice in a matter of weeks, I can wholeheartedly say that this was the best use of motion controls I have ever seen. I won't go as far to say that the motion controls are immersive because they aren't, that would be giving them way too much credit. This is by no means a VR level of control, but rather the simplicity of the controls is what puts it over the top for me. The high and low attacks are activated by tilting the Joy-Con up or down, but the slash button is still controlled by a button press, and you swing the Joy-Con in specific directions to perform killing blows. The block-breaking kick Travis can do is also controlled by a button press, and when you use it to stun enemies, you can grab them to toss the beam katana in the air and perform a wrestling move that knocks them down and has a chance to kill them when the sword comes back down. Pulling off the move requires you to swing the Joy-Con in different directions, and a lot of the time you feel like you're dancing, and pulling off these moves is so satisfying. The game does an amazing job of making you feel like you're doing a lot while also only moving a little. Not once did I ever feel like the motion controls were getting in the way of the fun, which says a lot. My entire experience with other motion controls has been the antithesis of that. I constantly ask myself, why isn't this action mapped to a button? But if you ever looked into No More Heroes, you've probably heard about how the game was originally supposed to be for the Xbox 360, but after playing with and seeing the Wiimote, Suda51 moved development to the Wii. Because of that, the motion controls are baked into the DNA of this game, so much so that when I actually tried the button inputs over the motion controls, it felt like a lot less of an experience. I didn't feel nearly as involved with the gameplay. If you have a Switch Lite, is it still fun? Yeah, probably, but for the first time in my entire gaming life, I'd choose the motion controls over buttons every time. In the final boss of the true ending, which I'm not showing you now to avoid spoilers, I was standing up out of my seat, laser focused on the fight at hand. I felt like I was in it, and during this battle, every hit is earned. By the time it was over, I was sweating. When I landed that final blow, I threw my arms in the air and took in the victory before falling back on my bed. I cannot put into exact words how little this happens when I play games. I get a lot of enjoyment out of games and tough boss fights, but there was really something different about this final battle that made me feel like I was part of it, and every failed suplex was my own fault. But when I got a stun in and suplexed the heck out of him, I felt like I did that. Could I nitpick the game and complain that every enemy makes the same noise when you slice them in half? Sure, but I'm not going to. Again, not a single design issue killed the forward momentum that I was having with the game, and that's likely due to the fact that there were boss fights right around the corner. I went into this game completely obliviously, meaning every boss fight was a surprise in both design and fighting style. The joy of finally being able to afford the entry fee to my next fight was something that never lost its luster. I was always excited to see what came next, and not once was I let down. Boss fights in No More Heroes are varied and fun, and each individual ranked assassin feels entirely different from one another. They all have distinct fighting styles and methods of attack. I liken these to Dead Rising boss fights where each villain has a reason to be defensive. I can say with perfect clarity that Destroyman is one of my favorite boss fights ever. It was so video gamey in the perfect way where it feels like you're essentially fighting a supervillain who has projectile energy attacks and can even levitate off the ground. Just make sure you don't tell him you can definitely see the suspension cables attached to his back. Defeating him means turning your back to him at points, which is part of Travis's introduction to Destroyman.
Never mind then. We've got a job to do. But first, I need some time to get ready. Would you mind turning the other way? I need some privacy.
Privacy?
Yes. I need to prepare.
Whatever. Don't mind me. Pretend I'm not even here.
I just need you to look the other way for a second.
A second.
Yes, just a split second. I don't think it's too much to ask, do you?
Then we can get on with our fight?
That is correct.
All right.
Oh, damn it.
It was a fantastically fun battle from the introduction to the character all the way down to the moment Travis defeats him.
Machine gun jubblies? How did I miss those, baby?
Each of these fights tests what you know about the combat. For instance, I hit a wall pretty hard on the assassin Shinobu. After a solid hour and a half of getting absolutely nowhere, I changed my strategy. I found it incredibly hard to get a hit in, so when I did I was mashing the slash button and getting blocked. But when I stopped to examine her patterns, I realized I wasn't using the kick that could break her defense and stun her, allowing me to hit her with a suplex. Less was more with that fight, and after only getting a few hits in and waiting her to give the opportunity to kick her and flip her over, she was history. Some bosses in the game make you act defensively and act out of reaction. Others make you attack guns blazing, but they can all make you stop and think about your attack before you can succeed. This kept everything fresh because you might not know exactly what to do when you enter a fight, and that was consistent throughout the whole game. You always had the raw tools and mechanics necessary to win, but every battle was a puzzle you had to solve on how to use them. It's where No More Heroes thrives. These ranked battles are rewards in themselves, and while you can get upgrades and new weapons, I found myself more looking forward to the actual gameplay in these fights rather than what I'd get from beating them. That is what sets No More Heroes apart from most other games I've played this year. Your prize is more game, and with the controls as surprising as they are, it's an excellent thing to look forward to. No More Heroes was some of the most fun I've had all year. Full stop. For a game that had so much buildup in my head after years and years, to exceed my expectations was wholly unexpected and impressive. My only regret is that I didn't play this sooner. And while some of the design choices might turn some people off, I feel like if you've watched this far into the video and think the game looks cool, you'll probably like it a lot. When No More Heroes 1 and 2 dropped on Switch, I knew I couldn't wait any longer to play, and while I haven't dug into the sequel yet, the first game surprised me in so many ways. I knew I liked the concept of the game going into it, but it floored me by changing the way I look at motion controls. By giving me an example of a game that was built for them rather than having them added as an afterthought, it kept my interest the whole time. And while I know the game won't be for everyone, No More Heroes feels like a game that was specifically tailored for me. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry it took a little bit longer to get out. I had some things fall through. A lot of things went wrong. But if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like on it. If you want to talk about No More Heroes, tell me your favorite bosses. Try to keep it spoiler-free for people who may not have played this before. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite bosses were in this game. And lastly, if you want to see more videos, please hit the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. I've got videos coming out all the time. But once again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. I'm going to go play some No More Heroes too.
Thank you. Mighty kind. Mighty kind.